Albert Fish looked like a frail, harmless old man, a grandfather who might shuffle down the street with a kind smile. But behind his gray hair and quiet demeanor lived one of the most monstrous killers in American history. Born in 1870, Hamilton Howard Albert Fish spent his youth in orphanages where he was beaten regularly. Instead of fearing pain, he began to crave it, discovering a perverse pleasure in suffering. That twisted foundation would grow into something unspeakable. By adulthood, Fish was a drifter, moving from job to job, often working as a house painter. He married once, fathered 6 children, and by appearances seemed unremarkable. But in private, he plunged into violent fantasies. He developed an obsession with young children, whom he viewed not as human beings but as prey. His journals, later found by police, described desires that shocked even hardened detectives: ritual mutilations, cannibalism, and self-torture. He would stick needles into his own flesh for pleasure. X-rays after his arrest revealed more than 24 of them still lodged deep inside his body. The first known killings began in the 1920s, when Fish lured children from the streets of New York. He often claimed God had commanded him to cleanse the innocent. He would entice children with promises of food, money, or simple kindness, leading them to abandoned houses. What he did afterward was so gruesome that much of it was censored, even in court records. But it was in 1928 that Fish committed the crime that sealed his place in infamy. 10-year-old Grace Budd was last seen leaving her Manhattan home with Fish, who posed as a wealthy employer offering work to her older brother. Instead, he took her to an empty house in the countryside. Months passed with no answers until Grace's parents received a letter in the mail. The words inside were among the most horrifying ever written. In it, Fish described how he had killed Grace, then cooked and eaten parts of her body. The letter was so graphic that the police initially doubted a human being could have written it. But inside his rambling confession, Fish made a mistake. He mentioned the boarding house from which he had written. That detail led detectives straight to him. When arrested, Fish was calm, even polite. He spoke openly about his crimes, admitting to other murders and boasting of his desires. In court, his defense argued insanity, pointing to his lifelong obsession with self-harm and sadism. But the jury had seen enough. In 1935, Albert Fish was sentenced to death. Witnesses said he walked to the electric chair with eagerness, almost relishing the punishment. His last words were chilling. What a thrill that will be. The lever was pulled, and the current surged through his frail body, ending the life of a man who had hidden true evil beneath a grandfatherly face. To this day, Albert Fish remains one of the most terrifying examples of how monsters often disguise themselves as the ordinary, waiting patiently until the moment they choose to reveal what they truly are. Albert Fish looked like a frail, harmless old man, a grandfather who might